Okay, so you'll notice that there'll be two videos on this particular in this particular lesson, only because the first lesson has covered what we already have covered in class, and what I'm going to do is the stuff that we have already covered, I'm going to just kind of skip over and then just do the added value content that is within this particular slide that you can find. It's just my neighbors. Anyway, um, that you can find in this presentation, and then we can just kind of finish that up. Remember, you are right now trying to prepare, and you're not trying, but you are preparing for on air, and we will be in the studio within 2 weeks' time. Just again with studio controls and such, and so we're gonna actually want to start broadcasting, should I say, within 2 weeks' time. But we'll start with the studio controls next week when we come back from a long weekend. Okay, but in the meantime, please obviously start. And again, as I've shown you in class, the show prep, and obviously I shared that with you as well. You must also have a look at the structure of a call out and how to put that together. We've done that as well, and really put some work into it and understand that this is the end of one dimensional content in call outs. Okay, so just again, just to kind of recite the some extra added value content in terms of information with character profiles, which you did cover in class. At Disneyland, there are no employment officers or employees. The company calls it casting, and workers are cast members, which is really cool. I mean, you must not get me started on Disney. I absolutely love them, like in every kind of way. In Disneyland, you obviously have your performers that are playing Cinderella, and who like Snow White and so on. So, and obviously, there's this endless amount of characters that they play. But the thing is that it's the work ethic and the work culture, and Disney's culture, should I say, that really encompasses everything that will roll down as cause and effect for the employees that do work for them. Okay, team members play a role. Sure, they do. Of course, if you can just respect the people that work for you, and they will respect you back, and that's obviously like an expected thing. I mean, you're doing this, and it's a two-way street. You don't hire in this sense like a janitor. You hire an actor playing the role of a street sweeper. For a show, every member is an actor performing a role. For us, I mean, if we look at, let's say, one of the greatest comedy series ever made, which was Seinfeld. There were characters. Jerry Seinfeld actually played himself, Jerry Seinfeld, within the series, and then he had friends, but they were very, very, very like very actual in their character and personalities and their profiles, and very memorable, super great, one of my favorites as well. So again, kind of distinction between like you and another person is super important when you are obviously working through your place and finding your place, right? So once again, many shows have great chemistry, but little entertainment value, and we know this. We've heard it. We still hear it. What do you stand for? The question that on-air talent must always answer. Once we did, like we did last time in the class, like who are you? And then that kind of existential, a view of who we are, and trying to put that on paper and trying to put it into words is super important for again you to just get by, before you get into the industry. Okay. So, and then obviously how you obviously can translate that type of, again, intangible things, so the intangible concept of a personality into like something you can touch and feel, and listeners can touch and feel and connect to, etc., etc. Right. So, we've spoken about this. There's a mention just there that kind of sparks me off into a conversation about exaggeration. Like I've told you that you need to exemplify and obviously exponentially present your on a personality so that it can be heard. Like I say heard by the masses. Not by shouting, whatever it may be, but you are an entertainment platform and industry, and so we expect you to perform, right? It doesn't mean going out of the box, like in terms of going mad, but just being a bigger, bigger, larger version of you, when you are on air and connecting with your listener. Be yourself, very important. Your personality is something that, yes, grows and changes over time, but at the core, really, like as you change and grow organically, like it will be something that people don't really notice as a vast change. That only happens when you are in a non, like I say, a productive growth spurt, and then you kind of like put everything together and then change everything and make these massive changes, and obviously on the air, like that's not something that we do. Okay, so we've gone through this in class, definitely about pointing out what it is that you are and trying to identify, um, as different character traits, definitely. But just a couple of extra notes here about character profiles. So never violate the image that you have presented to your listener. So Rick Dees, who is on a Kiss FM, who was on Kiss FM, should I say, in Los Angeles, I was known as funny, and he was a nice guy. Howard Stern first came in Los Angeles, and he generated tremendous media attention by being very, very scandalous and shocking, and very raw and forward. Feeling threatened, Rick reacted on air by adding angry, controversial material, but it wasn't what the audience knew him by, and so it didn't really sit well with them as well. You can't just change your presenter your presented personality to the listener. They're lost, they're confused, they don't know what's going on. Like, why are you having this day? Why are you being this way? And also, again, someone can also feel when it is forced, and so once again, very naturally, the numbers just kind of died there. A talent statement helps. Ryan Seacrest, who I've said to you, I've worked before for. Remember that he's not the funniest or the edgiest show or personality alive, but he is very positive. He's well informed and he's super friendly, and everyone kind of loves Ryan Seacrest. There's not really ever been bad press. Even they can't even. I think the press got tired of trying to find anything scandalous that's linked to Ryan Seacrest, and so on and so forth. Okay. Build material with a purpose. So the way that writing teams creates the way writing teams create television scripts, right? So what they do, and I'm sure you've seen it before in series or whatever it is on TV, is that they will, like, the writers will be in a room together and they will bounce off one another, and they will like create characters and create obviously story plots and so on. And that's how you should build with purpose. Like, think of many different aspects of how you can bring in different information, again, sound bites, whatever it may be, but also perspectives, and how you can include listeners and how you can include the population around you, your community, to enrich this like process on air, right? Within obviously screenwriting, like each line is crafted carefully, because you can lose an audience immediately with a bad, like a bad conversation, a bad moment, during the production and when they're watching this. And it's a very careful process, but you must also know that even though you have a little bit more leeway within radio, because you can immediately kind of fix what you have said, you have to be very aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it and for you you're doing it, so that you can achieve some excellence, right? Okay, so this is the stuff that we have covered in air. So banter, remember banter. So across, yourself and your listeners, there is, just the concept of banter and how you are able to carry on conversation quite naturally. And it's, again, kind of this rich, very entertaining process. Banter very important in creating characters. I'm just saying to you once again, there's mention of Cheers, something that was not part of your time, was very popular, a comedy series once again in my time, and it was a super success. Just it was considered groundbreaking for kind of unknown reasons in a way, but the unknown reasons always the X factor, and how they obviously constructed this very, very odd, I say, oddball collective of casts or characters, right, that would congregate in this like bar, and the stories of their lives and their interactions with themselves would be obviously the basis for the show itself and the story itself. Okay, so let's continue. Again, we also have covered production, right? So all these elements are again the stuff that we covered in the previous lesson. That's I'm going to just call this one B, and I'm just going to again add on like where there is some extra information. We spoke. I mean, I brought up Howard Stern immensely throughout. Obviously throughout the year, and for good reason, not because I'm a fan, but because of what he had done to the radio industry and how he presented himself in such a very like abnormal way. So if in a good way, abnormal normally means bad, but I mean abnormal, like it was something completely like when I say shocking, it was shocking to the system, and he changed the norm of radio. Kind of also, I mean, Rush Limbaugh, who had 21 million listeners in the audience because he was the first man who syndicated his talk show across America, and that was massive, like humongous. I mean, can you imagine having 21 million listeners, to your show, and on an average as well? Like there's big, I'd say. Uh, I mean, there's a big prize, for big effort, a big outcome for big passion, and obviously for fruits for you to enjoy in terms of your success is by putting in this mass amount of effort, yes, into your work for sure. But when you get on air, like, don't forget how great you can be by executing what you need to do to the listener and really making like a smash hit of that connection and that opportunity. I'm going to close off with this performing with passion. So the same is true once again of let's say Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell immediately stood out, and yes, he was kind of like that very nasty, like when he did American Idols, very nasty, kind of like very rude and crude um, person. Sorry, I was there are more slides. I just saw the end of the one, and we're gonna do a couple more, right? But the thing is that when he went to, I think was it X Factor or what is that? I think it's X Factor and America's Got Talent as well. Um, I think it's America's Got Talent. Like we got to see a really a warmer side to Simon Cowell. Like obviously his press also changed a little bit just to kind of make sure that it was molded in the right direction. People could start really liking him for hating him, but liking him at the same time. He didn't change his personality. He just showed us a different side of it as well, which is what you need to do. You need to have dimension at the end of the day, and note that when you do perform once again, like I say, with passion. Okay, content and style. So let's look at in the song "Join Together," the Who's, which you will never listen to, and you will probably never hear in your life. They're very old, old class band. Roger Daltrey sang, "It's the singer, not the song, that makes you sing along." Right? This may be true, but no matter how great the performance, a bad song is a bad song, and a great song requires the singer's performance to become a hit. So it's a bit of both worlds, right? It's all of both worlds. Content and style combined to inspire audience, right? So what we've spoken about is that you can't just do great content. You can't have everything structured and be very kind of methodical. And you can't, on the other side, just have this great personality. You've got to meet in the middle and bring that once again to life. Okay, it is what you put into it, and I don't want to repeat myself. Magic happens when personality and content intersect. Okay, the case study that is here, there are two talk shows on competing stations. Oh, I've done this one already. Askies, ne? Askies. So we've done this already. Okay. All right. So any homework here, according to the principles learned, were the shows I don't even know why I skipped the beginning there. Just let me do that again. Use the knowledge about building a winning radio show and listening to three different radio stations of any of your choice. Doesn't really matter whether it's international, national, a community. I don't care. It doesn't matter. According to the principles learned, were the shows badly executed or well executed? Don't take a snap judgment and listen for 15 minutes. Like, actually take time to listen to a show. Um, and again, listen to different stations, to kind of also broaden that enjoyment for the medium. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Happy holidays, and I'll see you next week.